This next video is to share with you my responses for student standard number 3 on the justification portion of our chapter 5 formative. So the first task says justify which store Damon would get the best deal on water. That comes from student standard number 1. So we know from our work on student standard number 1 that Damon would get the best deal of water at Target. So before I get into my response, let's get back to my work. So I'm going to turn back to my work from Target. So I had two strategies. One was to take the total cost for 24 bottles and divide by 24, because I know when I divide by 24 that would give me the cost for one bottle. Other method was to set up a proportion to show a similar thing, and that proportion would really be down here at the bottom. Okay, $6.96 over 24 bottles. I would then have to scale down to one bottle, the cost for one bottle. So when we look back at my justification, I tell you how I did those things using specific vocabulary. So I say I know this because I calculated the unit rate per bottle of water at each store. In this case, the unit rate would be the cost for one bottle of water. As you can see on my work on Standard 1, the cost per water bottle at Target was 29 cents per bottle. I knew that if the cost for 24 bottles of water was $6.96, all I would need to do would be to find the unit rate or price per bottle would be to divide $6.96 by 24. And then I also describe how I set up that proportion. And then I just have to scale down by 24, that factor of 24, to determine the price for one bottle. And instead of explaining that whole process again, I simply say that I followed a similar process of scaling down and setting up proportions to determine the cost per bottle of water at Walgreens and at Pick and Save. So you don't have to go through that process again. You just have to do it once, really, with really strong vocabulary. But then I go into adding further proof to my reasoning, and one of the ways you could do that would be to find a least common denominator, like I did. I'm going to highlight this in yellow here. So my least common denominator for each was 96 bottles. And you have to scale up by different factors, obviously, to get to 96 bottles, but then I can see equivalent ratios, but then compare the cost for one store directly to the cost of another store with the same number of bottles, just like what we did with the unit rate. And as you can see there, that $27.84 at Target would be the cheapest. So I describe that in that justification. So this second part down here, this part down here, that would be what would take you up to a level 4. So you can take a look at that on your own, read it carefully, look at the vocabulary that I use to describe that process. Make sure you're using things like product equals, right? Scaled up, scaled down, right? Numerator, multiply, right? Always looking for places you can add that vocabulary. And then the second justification problem says, in standard 2, Morgan types 112 words in 2 minutes, Mary typed 392 words in 7 minutes. Justify why both girls type the same amount of words per minute. And again, the big idea was to get a unit rate. You can see on the table in standard 2 that Morgan's typing speed per minute is 56 words per minute. So let's take a look at that right now. So 56 words per minute, and you can see we did that by scaling down the given ratio by 2/2. So I described that in my justification that you're scaling down in both the numerator and denominator To prove that I divided correctly, I can use the inverse operation of division and scale up by a factor of 2. 56 multiplied by 2, the product equals 112. So I know that Morgan types 56 words per minute. And then I can scale up to figure out if Morgan and Mary type at the same rate. So then if we look back at my work for the justification, we have that unit rate, 1 minute of typing for 56 words would equal 7 minutes of typing for 392 words. And the same thing if we did the converse, 7 minutes of typing over 392 words, and then in this time scaling down, dividing by 7 over 7 would still get us 1 minute and 56 words typed. So knowing that unit rate is 1 minute typing 56 words in that minute. So if we go back to my response here, I described that process, and you can take more time to read it on your own. And I again check my work by doing the inverse. I can start with 7 minutes typing and scale down by 7, like I showed before. For even further proof, if I plot Mary's rate on Morgan's typing speed graph, connect the dots. Mary's typing speed, 7 minutes, matches up with Morgan. So those two are twin typers. So if I go to my graph, look at Mary's rate here, connect those dots. Mary's rate for 7 minutes type, 392 words per minute is going to be right on that graph. So that'll add some support. Okay. So I know that 392 words per minute, or per 7 minutes, is the same as 56 words in 1 minute typing. Thus, 112 words in 2 minutes is going to be an equal ratio as well, because I know that I can scale up to go from 1 minute of typing to 2 and 56 words to 112 words. Okay. So, take some time looking over that justification that I wrote. Look at yours. What could you do to improve yours? What could take you from a 2 to a 3? What could take you from a 3 to a 4? Okay, really look at that vocabulary and how you can improve it. Practice, 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 and get better. Thank you.